Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My pleasure to stand to speak to the amendment to Bill 20, the final level of debate. I really want to support this bill. This is, to me, a sea change that has been so important in my political life. Of course, I was unceremoniously fired back in 2002, 14 years ago, because our government wouldn't listen to any criticism about the lack of action on climate change. Ralph Klein and Lorne Taylor. Lorne Taylor apparently was in the House yesterday and stayed quiet. He wanted to. Through the security, they mentioned to me that he was there. He just was curious to see how the legislature operates these days. But he didn't come to see me. As a public health officer representing all the medical officers in the province, we had passed a resolution saying we have to get moving on climate change. And I was looking for a new job the next day. And it's been quite a run. And I applaud the government for taking some serious steps towards this important initiative. Carbon tax is an important step towards reducing carbon use, changing behavior. But it is one tool among many to change human activities. And there's no single item in this bill that's particularly egregious that I would say individually would prevent me from supporting the bill. But the amalgamation of a number of weak points in the bill leaves the bill open to becoming as ineffective as the previous PC attempts at an intensity carbon tax that was roughly $2.50 a tonne in Alberta and had the predictable outcome of no change. It was business as usual for the last 12 years. Fundamentally, there's been no indication so far that the government has actually identified the benefits as well as the costs associated with this important change. The carbon tax is an important step, and it seeks to achieve the change in industry and in individual activities to reduce carbon and other greenhouse gases. It seeks to reduce, in fact, through coal phase-out, human health impacts, which is a laudable, important goal that I think future generations, if not this generation, will applaud. But the devil's in the details. Process matters. Details matter. It's not clear entirely what the goals of this, besides carbon reduction and greenhouse gas reduction, are. There's no indication of the impacts on electricity pricing in this province, on jobs, on small and medium-sized business. We've heard about questions around the nonprofit sector and charitable foundations and what impact this is going to have. The cost-benefit analysis, even though it would be preliminary, even though it would be open to a lot of uncertainties, would give us some sense that there's been some thoughtful analysis about where we might expect to see extra costs, which we all must pay if we're going to have a change, and where we would expect to see benefits. There's a lack of performance targets for this government to evaluate itself against. I'm referred to some other legislative business goals. No amendments here requiring accountability, therefore, on this sweeping bill were supported, not even a commitment to independent review of value for money, which, yes, the Auditor General could do, but he has many things to do. This may not be a priority for the Auditor General in the next 3 to 5 years, depending on how much resource he has and where his priorities fall. This is supposed to be an incentive program to change behavior, but there doesn't appear to be incentives for the 2/3 of the population. We're giving them back whatever they have to pay in extra costs. I don't understand that. Why someone in middle income, up to $100,000 a year, should get a rebate when we're trying to incent them to actually change their behavior, not just get more money for carrying on with the same old. Lastly, perhaps most importantly, the bill is not revenue neutral, such as the BC model, which I have some affinity for, because instead of being returning the tax expenses associated with the carbon tax. It's giving a pot of money to government to spend where and when it chooses. And it's not clear to me what's in and what's out. I was unable to get any clarity around what would not be acceptable funding for this carbon levy. It provides a pot of cash to be dispersed at the government's discretion. And I must say, this is a new government. They're trying to do the right thing. I don't know about the next government, though. What are they going to do with a pot of money that's $3.6 billion in a year? So we're basically trying to think not only about this government, but the next government, and whether there are checks and balances in place, whether there's accountability. Yeah, that's why I'm really concerned that you guys might get this in 3 years, and then we're in real trouble. Well,
but there was a compliment in there for a brief period.
Don't worry, Doctor, we'll take care of it.
we have, so the intentions are good. I have no doubt about that. But circumstances change. We've seen the government have to roll back on its commitment to a debt ceiling, for example. It's not enough to say, just trust us. There's too many variables. There's too many uncertainties at play. I and the Liberal Party then have been calling for a carbon tax for years, and a real carbon fee that provides incentive for reduced carbon fuel use. But putting a price on carbon is just not enough. On behalf of all Albertans, we deserve a plan that includes explicit goals, performance measures, monitoring, a reporting commitment that's independent, and that ensures that whether it's a New Democrat government or not, there's full accountability to Albertans who are being asked to pay for this. So it's with a heavy heart that I must say I cannot support the bill at this time. I can only hope that future sessions of the Legislature will be able to refine and remake significant portions of the Climate Leadership Implementation Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.